The Dodgers made two suspicious moves today that could be related to the status of Tommy Edman and Kike Hernandez and could be the end of the Bo Bichette dream in LA. Also, the NFL playoffs begin. I've got my Super Bowl pick. I've got more keys to a Rams win over the Panthers. Also, we'll talk some Chargers as they take on the Patriots, and the Lakers might not have a lot of moves to make, and a potential target is not going to be on the table. That's coming up next on the LA Sports Report.
LA is the sports capital of the world. The Lakers have entered their Luka Doncic era. LeBron doesn't just want a farewell tour, he wants a farewell title. The Rams are going to win the Super Bowl. Go, Kings, go! The Dodgers are the best run franchise in all of professional sports. Shohei Ohtani is the GOAT. Steve Ballmer will do anything to get the Clippers a championship. Mick Cronin has to win a national championship at UCLA. Justin Herbert is a top 5 quarterback in this league. College football is just better when USC is good. This whole city has the Mamba mentality. I love LA.
Live from the heart of Los Angeles, this is the LA Sports Report with your host, Doug McKain.
What is up, and welcome to the LA Sports Report. My name is Doug McKain. I've covered LA sports for over a decade, 24/7 sports, Bleacher Report. I also do Westwood One Radio for the NFL, also Locked On Rams, Dodgers Nation. I'm loyal to the soil, and that is what this show is all about. All LA sports rolled up into one show, all the biggest headlines, the hottest stories, you're going to find it right here. This is the only show that's doing it. Dodgers, Lakers, Rams, Chargers, USC, UCLA. If they're talking about it in the world of LA sports, we're talking about it right here. Got to 5K subs a little over a month, so faster than we thought. So join us, and then you could say like, hey man, man, they got their 1 million sub, and I was subbing like way back in the day when they had like 100 and a couple thousand. It just continued to grow. So appreciate all you guys out there rocking with us, my day ones. I appreciate every single one of you. And next week, on both our shows here, Dodgers Dougout and the LA Sports Report, I'm going to be featuring a call-in hotline. So I'm going to hear your voices on the show. So that is going to be a very exciting development as well. But let's get into it. The Dodgers, they made two moves today. Talk about your boys in blue. We need more Clippers coverage. Don't worry, you'll get our Clippers coverage. Maybe you want some Clippers coverage? Here, I got you right here. That's the extra theme. But we got the Kawhi laugh cooking, so definitely look out for some Clippers coverage. We'll talk about the Clip Show. Much better of late. And we know Rob Dog, the producer of the show, he reps the Clips. He at least respects the Clips, so he'll talk some Clips. But we'll start with the Los Angeles Dodgers, who made a couple moves today. And we're going to start with the most recent one. The Dodgers signed Andy Ibanez. The Dodgers, according to Francis Romero of Beesball FR, the quality control sports client, Andy Ibanez, is now with the Dodgers. Now, this is very interesting for several reasons. And first and foremost is that Ibanez has no options. You can't stash him down at the minor league level. He has to be on the 26-man opening day roster if he's going to play for your franchise. Now, that also means that he is a player who is relatively cheap, so you're not going to have to really hurt in the pocket if you're going to have to move off of him for any reason, if they decide to DFA or go a different direction. But I don't think that's going to be the case here. Ibanez, a little bit about him as a player. What kind of player is he? He spent 3 years with the Detroit Tigers in a utility role, plays all the infield positions, third base, shortstop, second base, first base. He played in 304 games, had 820 plate appearances. He combined to slash 251. That's below average as a hitter. 304, 392. Combined to go 93 weighted runs created plus. That's not terrible, 7% below league average, but it's the defensive versatility, like I mentioned. He can play every single position on the infield, and he can play both outfield corner spots. So there's that benefit. And he qualified for arbitration a year ago as a Super 2. The Tigers paid him $1.4 million. He was projected to make $1.8 million this year, but Detroit did not tender him a contract, so he went into free agency. And the Dodgers, their current infield picture, you got Mookie Betts at shortstop. He's 33. He might get some time off at some point. Freddie Freeman is 36. Max Muncy's 35. The infield is getting a little long in the tooth. And then you look at the second base position, there's a lot of moving parts. You have Tommy Edman coming back off ankle surgery. Hae-Sung Kim still needs to prove himself as a everyday big league hitter. Miguel Rojas, he's back on a 1-year, $5.5 million deal. The World Series hero, Miggy Rowe, my friend, he's back. But he's not an everyday second baseman. He's someone that is going to fill a bench role, fill a leadership role. I think we're going to see a lot of manager Miggy this year. And then behind him, you got Alex Freeland, who got a cup of coffee in his first year in the show last year. Those are all options at second base, but all of those names have question marks. And I think when you look at the roster as it stands, Tommy Edman coming back off the injury, Hae-Sung Kim can also play other positions. Alex Freeland, a good prospect, but there's no slam dunks at that spot. And then you add the fact that Bo Bichette, they've been in the mix for Bo Bichette, at least from a rumor standpoint, and two things have come out in the last 2 days about Bo Bichette. The first thing is that he's looking for a $300 million contract. And I guarantee you that if Bo Bichette's representatives tried to sign a $300 million contract with the Dodgers and they asked him that over the phone, they would hear this. It'd be dial tone. Andrew Friedman would hang up the phone, cut the cord, and throw it out the window. They're not giving Bo Bichette $300 million. Would they give him even $200 million? Well, based on the most recent report, that's not even an option, because what was thought to have been the path to Bo Bichette was that, yeah, Kyle Tucker is your high AAV, shorter term contract guy that if no deal is presented to him from the Toronto Blue Jays, the New York Mets, that he would pivot to the Dodgers, play there for 1 year, have a great season, re-enter the market, and then sign a $300+ million deal. No one said that about Bo Bichette. Bo Bichette was supposed to be a guy they could probably get 4, 5, 6, 7 years on a reasonable contract, but now it's come out that the Dodgers view Bo Bichette in the same way that they view Kyle Tucker, and that is on the shorter term, high AAV type of deal, the Bryce Harper special, whatever you want to call it, what they gave Trevor Bauer a few years ago. So that tells you a couple things that are linked to the Dodgers roster process. And that is that they're not in love with any of those guys, right? The Dodgers have fallen in love with Shohei Ohtani. That's why they gave him $700 million, really $463 million if you look at the present day value. Given Mookie Betts $365, giving Freddie Freeman $162, giving Yamamoto $325. They fell in love with those players. But with Bo Bichette and Kyle Tucker, I think at best they have fallen in like with those players. They like them, they don't love them, but they would love them on a contract that's on their terms, under their circumstances. So Ibanez is another step in the, hey, we're probably not in the Bo Bichette market. You could probably just end those hopes and dreams of Bo Bichette. And then on top of that, you look at the Phillies. I think at this point he ends up in Philadelphia. I think that's where Bo Bichette ends up signing, because a couple of things there. The Phillies are going to be more aggressive towards him, and they're willing to pay him more than they originally were expecting to. 2, I've heard that Phillies players are actively trying to recruit him. 3, they added Don Mattingly to the Phillies staff on the bench as a coach in Philly. And by all reports, Bo Bichette and Don Mattingly were very close in Toronto when Mattingly was coaching there last year. So it feels like all signs are pointing to the Phillies being the number one most likely destination for Bo Bichette right now. And then the Dodgers kind of looking in different directions. But then you go even deeper for the Dodgers, and you look at this next move they made. And the next move that the Dodgers made, which was another one that it kind of fits in what they typically like to do, and that if there's a player out there that they feel can help on the margins, provide some versatility, do some different things for them that some other players can't, they're going to jump on that. And today, even earlier, the Dodgers were continuing to be active. And anytime the Dodgers are kind of out there and it's a Friday and they're kind of taking care of their business late in the week, kind of gives you an idea that they're already looking for their next steps, right? They completed arbitration and they got those deals done. And now you bring in Ryan Fitzgerald, who is previously of the Minnesota Twins, who looks like a James Outman doppelganger. Well, they claimed him off of waivers. Yes, it does look like, hey, Mom, I want some James Outman. And then Mom's like, we got James Outman at home. And there is good old Ryan Fitzgerald. He's 31. He's going to turn 32 in June. Spent 24 games at the major league level last year. Hit .277 in 59 AAA games. Slugged .469. Can play shortstop, third base, second base. Was DFA last week. So what I always tell you on the show, don't listen to what the Dodgers say and watch what they do. And they have said that, yeah, we're going to continue to possibly be opportunistic on the background as far as being on the backboard trying to make a move. But what they're doing is they're filling their roster with players that are versatile. And what I think is happening here is the Dodgers are showing their cards. We can't prove this, but we can say that it feels like what the Dodgers are doing is telling us that if Kike Hernandez is going to be back, that it might be longer than what was originally expected, or that Tommy Edman, maybe they're going to slow play his return there. So I think that that is what these two moves mean. It looks like Kike insurance, Edman insurance. So it doesn't necessarily mean they're committed to these guys. It just means it's insurance in the event that both of these guys need additional time, and that they're not completely sold on Alex Freeland, that they're not completely sold on Hae-Sung Kim, that Miguel Rojas is not going to be some everyday type of player. So that tells you that within the Dodgers, there's competition just within the infield itself. So I think that's where we're at with that. So that's your daily Dodgers news, really. One signing, and then one guy that was claimed in one day. So, hey, based on what we've seen recently, that's more than we've had in a while. So switching gears, we got some Dodgers can swoop in and give him 4 for $160. Sure, all those deals make sense. 4 for $160. All those types of contracts make sense, but this is not a great free agency class, right? These are a bunch of all-stars. They're not future Hall of Famers. And if you want to get a number that starts with a 3 with the Dodgers, you better be a Hall of Famer. Bo Bichette wants shortstop money, but last time I checked, he is not a shortstop. Bo Bichette is a second baseman now, a third baseman in the future, and he is one of the worst graded defensive shortstops in baseball. To think that the Dodgers would get Bo Bichette at a contract price that they could have gotten Corey Seager for years ago, that would not sit well with me, man. Okay? It's like, sure, you like certain things, but you only like things at the right price. And Bo Bichette at $300 million, that doesn't make any sense. In the words of the great Randy Jackson, that's a no from me, dog. You got Rosemary Carino. D-Mac, please tell us your favorite memories at UCLA. Okay, that could be a segment at some point. I mean, I was inebriated for a good amount, so I don't have the best memories for those. But no, honestly, top of my head, probably beating USC in the rain with where Anthony Barr knocked out Matt Barkley in the rain. That was a pretty fun one. You had a bunch of. I remember there was a girl in front of me that I was convinced might have been possibly like rest in peace dead because she was passed out. And I remember getting the security and they had to like put this like thing underneath her to like take her out of the stands. And I remember like checking. I remember I literally left the game like to check on her. I didn't even know this lady, and turns out she was okay. So it was pretty wild times. That's definitely up there for sure. But yeah, great times over in West. I don't know. How do you even know? I mean, I feel like I divulged too much information on this show, which is totally cool. You guys want my PIN number? You know, my social security number? I'll give you Rob's. But Loquito, what? 300 million? Bo is not worth that type of money. Yeah, I know.
Bruh.
Give that a bruh. When I first heard he wanted 300 million, I was like,
bruh.
Yeah, for sure. We got Bloodhound Lil Jeff Friedman is eating caviar, sipping on Moet while deciding his next successful move. Yeah, I could picture him in the robe right now. I love that. What up, D-Mac? It's Happy Friday. What up, Empire Jeff TV? Always rocking with us. But yeah, look, kind of tie a bow on kind of the current state of the Dodgers is, do they have to make any more moves to finish with the best record in baseball with their roster as currently constructed? The answer is no, but this is a team of professionals that know that as good as their roster is, one, it's flawed, especially in the outfield, and two, just because you're already good does not mean you can't get better. And they know that there's areas where they can get better, and the outfield is certainly that. So I think the Dodgers would be doing themselves a major disservice, and it would be a massive mistake if they did not add to the outfield in some capacity, whether that is Kyle Tucker or Cody Bellinger fall in your lap. If that's the case, great. I love it. Don't have to give up prospects. But here's the thing about Emmet Sheehan. I saw these Freddie Peralta trade rumors earlier in the week, and everyone's like, oh, wait a minute. You get Freddie Peralta? Oh, it's such a crowded rotation. Where is he supposed to go? We have a 50-man rotation? Yamamoto, Blake Snell, Shohei, Roki, Glasnow, Emmet Sheehan. I mean, you already had 6. Wherever Ryan. No, what that's telling you is that maybe Emmet Sheehan is a potential piece that they're going to use to get an outfielder, and that they still feel like you need elite frontline starting pitching. So I would not be surprised to see the Dodgers trade from their pitching depth to get an outfielder. And if, look, Emmet Sheehan's really, really good. Like Emmet Sheehan is probably, I would say, one of the top 5 most underrated pitchers in all of Major League Baseball. Sheehan has a bright future. He is explosive when he's right. And here's a mind-blowing stat I got for you about Emmet Sheehan. Only 3 pitchers in all of Major League Baseball in 2025 had pitched 70-plus innings, had a strikeout to walk ratio north of 23%, had an opponent's batting average under 200, and had a FIP, a fielding independent pitching, under 300, under 3, right? Okay, 70-plus innings pitched, strikeout to walk ratio of 23% or more, opponent's batting average of 200 or less, and a FIP of under 3. Who are those 3 pitchers? 2 that you would guess. You want to guess the 2? Go for it. Paul Skeens, Tarek Skubal. Those would be your top 2 guesses, right? Emmet Sheehan was 3rd. He was the 3rd guy in that group. Only 3 pitchers to do that. Emmet Sheehan's one of them. So in a lot of ways, you're probably thinking, well, that should mean he's untouchable. He's untradeable. Sure, it could mean that, but also could mean that you got to give up something to get something, right? Scared money don't make none. And when you look at this starting rotation, you're not trading away established veteran starters. You might use an Emmet Sheehan for a major piece, whether it be a Steven Kwan, whether it be a Jaron Durant, whether it be a Wilyer Abreu, if Byron Buxton was available. Those kinds of names are the names that you would consider trading Emmet Sheehan away. Because here's what I know about the Dodgers. Came out today, executives voted them as the #1 farm system on all of baseball. Look at the development of Jackson Ferris. Look how they plucked River Ryan in a deal where you trade away Matt Beaty and got River Ryan. You can find an Emmet Sheehan somehow, some way. That's how good this front office is. They can spot talent out of the window of a moving train. And once the talent's been identified, then it's about, okay, let's optimize them. Let's take what you do and have you do it more. And the things that you do that aren't great, we're going to have you do that less. And then we're going to get your body in the best possible shape. We're going to look at the biomechanics. We're going to look at the development. And then you get the Emmet Sheehans. Then you get the Gavin Stones. Then you get the Kyle Hurts. Then you get kind of these project pitchers that some of them came in with bigger expectations than others, but they still found a way to help this big league club. And there's two ways you can help the Dodgers now if you're coming up. You can provide depth and be that next man up at a particular position, or two, you can be a valuable trade chip that they can use to get a win now piece. So that's what is the reality with this Dodgers team. Okay, a couple more Dodgers comments here, and then we're going to switch gears. NFL playoffs, baby. Tomorrow. It's like the best stretch of days from the CFP to the NFL playoffs. It is Christmas in January. They call it like playoff-uary or something. Like, I don't know who came with that, but give them a raise or maybe fire them, one of the two. Bloodhound Lil Jeff, I'd rather trade for Corey than give Bo 300. Thinking they said Bo will not get 300, 200 tops, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, look, Corey Seager, he has been mentioned in some trade talks. Pretty interesting. Mario Landavari, Bo trying to get paid double Freddie Freeman money. I know. It just, that's, he's younger, though. He's younger than Freddie was when he hit the market. And first base, not as premium of a defensive position, but yeah, Freddie Freeman's one of the best value deals in baseball. Freddie at $27 million, baseball version of fine wine, aging like fine wine. And by the way, Freddie with that worm, man, can't wait to ask him about that at spring training. Dave Friedman wearing his white bathrobe and eating a torta, about to make a blockbuster transaction. I like that. Got him.
Got him.
I think the Dodgers do need one more move. They need another bat. Their current offense can be very hit and miss. Yeah, I mean, look, last year, and we're going to talk about it on Monday's show, the offense definitely was underwhelming, or at least more underwhelming than you would expect based on the talent they do have. Dave said, I hope it's not Sheehan for Donovan and Newbart type deal. I think Sheehan for Donovan, 2 years of team control, all-star, 20% above average league, 20% above league average bat. Depending on who else was considered in the deal. I mean, the cool thing about Donovan is he's a perfect platoon partner with Ryan Ward. Roseman, I like how D-Mac has a helicopter in the background. So this is an active background. You guys see the palm tree. This is my favorite thing. I love how this palm tree is moving, right? This is moving, baby. This is like real, living, breathing, active background. This is the big budget stuff, the LA Sports Report, thanks to the Rob Dog. BC, October is the best time for sports. All of them are going. BC. So yeah, there's a couple sports equinoxes. I would say that October is my favorite time. I'm with you on that. Like, I'll take that over any other. Now is nice, but when you have MLB postseason, the start of the NBA season, college football really towards the middle, and then the NFL towards the middle, where it's a little behind than where college football is. Then you got the start of hockey too. Don't think I forgot about Go Kings, go. So yeah, I'm all for that. When it starts to get December, I really legitimately will get up and start to get depressed that football season's already ending. Like I literally get sad. And then November, college football essentially ends. It goes by way too fast. But right, we are switching gears. We are talking Rams. Play my Rams theme music, baby. Classic here. Rockin' LA. Bring back teams making songs. Like, we need to see that. We need to see teams making songs again. That, of course, was just Ram It from the Rams. And the Rams take on the Panthers. And the Rams are definitely heavy favorites, to say the least. And history is on the side of the Rams being double-digit favorites. So the Rams right now, according to FanDuel, 10.5-point favorites over the Carolina Panthers. And this is just the 14th time in NFL history that a team has been favored by at least 10 points in a wild card round game. And if we look at history, well, history is on the Rams side. Teams that have been favored by 10 points or more in the wild card round are 12-1. They're also 10-3 against the spread. So the majority of time they've covered in those games. The only team to lose as a double-digit wild card favorite was the New Orleans Saints in 2010 when they were stunned by the Seattle Seahawks. I believe that was Beastquake 1, right? Where Marshawn Lynch backed in the end zone and grabbed his junk, all-time stuff. Or was that Beastquake 1 or 2? But it was one of the Beastquake games for sure. And it was a 41-36 point game, and that was 10-point favorites. And also the Buccaneers in 2020, the Bills in 2022 are the only other teams that didn't cover the spread. So if you also look past the wild card round, history is also on the Rams side in a major way. Teams that have been favored by double digits in the NFL playoffs are 64-14 all time. 64-14. Of those 14 losses, 5 of those came in the Super Bowl since 2000. So teams favored by at least 10 points are 21-7 in the playoffs, with the Ravens in 2019 being the only other team to lose a double-digit favorite, and that was in 2012. So, of course, Rams are favorites in Week 13 against the Carolina Panthers, and we know that the Panthers are going to be at home in Carolina, playing a playoff game for the first time since the Cam Newton era, since 2017. So that crowd is going to be juiced. They're going to be ready to go. That's why it's important for the Rams to come out, get an early lead, set the tone, take that crowd out of the game. And that's kind of how you do that, right? I mean, you go out there, you impose your will on a team that you should win. You should beat by 20 points. And I think for this Rams team that understands that their championship window with this group is what? Year to year? At the most, I think it's 2 years with Matthew Stafford. So it's not like they're going into it with all this young talent, which they do have with Puka Nacua, with Jared Verse, with Kobe Turner. Tons of young talent, but also when the best player in your team is 37 and it's year to year for him, you have to take advantage. And the Rams are widely considered to be the favorites. I looked at every single expert that made a pick on this game. And we are talking over 40 experts. I have found just one that has picked against the Rams. And that's Dan Graziano for ESPN. I'm not trying to call him out. I will after they win. But every single person, ESPN, USA Today, CBS Sports, NFL.com, The Athletic, Bleacher Report, it's Rams. So they're a heavy favorite. It's the playoffs. It's a great opportunity to go out there and get really back on the saddle against a bad Panthers team. So we're going to continue to preview this game and give you my keys to a Rams victory. But first, here was Sean McVay yesterday talking to reporters, and he provided an update on K-Dot, Kevin Dotson, the Rams' best lineman, who is going to be out on Saturday. And I'm going to tell you why I think that ultimately is going to be a good thing. I'll also give you my Super Bowl pick. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
As far as injuries, we'll rule Kevin Dotson out for the game, making good progress, but not going to make it for this game. And then the guys.
Of course, I mean, the LA Sports Report.
As far as injuries, we'll rule Kevin Dotson out for the game, making good progress, but not going to make it for this game. And then the guys that will be listed as questionable that we'll look forward to seeing, today's a big day for them will be Jordan Whittington, Terrence Ferguson, and Josh Wallace. And they truly are questionable. So today's practice will be a good indicator of their availability for the game. Everybody else will be good to go.
What have you seen in the last couple of days of practice that makes you realize they're ready?
Yeah, I think I think we want to make sure we have a great day today, good, above the neck day tomorrow, Maria, but just the good urgency and enjoyment. I think, want guys to trust themselves, trust each other, trust their teammates, and then be able to have, the courage to be able to go for it like we've talked about. But Go ahead.
Is urgency something that you can teach, or is it kind of an innate feeling that everybody feels?
I think it's probably a little bit more of a feeling. You know, I think when you see it, you know what it looks like. And I think there's a difference between urgency and being tight, you know. And so it's really more, I think it's a different way of saying let's have some good standards in terms of the way that we want to approach everything that we do, specifically on the grass, move around with intentionality, making sure that we're doing our 1/11th and coaches are communicating at a high level. So, but I think there can be a good balance, you know, when there's that urgency, but also there's that enjoyment and making sure you're present, but do not want it to be anything where you're tight. You know, this is a blessing these guys have earned to be in a position to be able to play in the playoffs. There's 18 teams that would love to be in this situation, and these guys have earned a right to be able to be there. This is an opponent that we're familiar with from playing them recently. They did a great job of being able to get a win against us, and so as a competitor, our guys are excited.
When you look at that tape, I know there's got to be a lot of things from that game
Sure.
that you're just like, that cannot happen again. Is the run game that they were able to produce with Hubbard and Donald the start of that?
Oh, they did a great job with that. You know, I think they were able to maintain possession. They were able to be in manageable third downs. They obviously had some key and critical fourth down conversions that, you know, led to touchdowns, and they scored touchdowns on those. And then on the flip side, you know, too many turnovers for us. And so, you know, the things that are the most important that are reflective is being able to, you know, get off the grass defensively. They were able to maintain and get some big conversions, and they did a great job. You know, like I talked to you guys about after that game, they made the plays to be able to win the game, and we came up short. And we had our chances, but there's a lot of learning ops, you know, and there's a lot of learning ops even when we've gotten the results that we won and those 12 of those wins that we did have. But this was one that it was a good, humbling day. You don't take away anything. You know, they earned that win, but we do have a very clear understanding of what's going to be required for us to be at our best, to do the things that are necessary first and foremost, starting with ourselves, you know, and then geared towards the opponent and the schemes. And our players have a lot of respect for these guys, and, you know, we'll be ready to go, but we know what a great challenge it'll be.
When it comes to improving that run defense, not just from that game, but, you know, Falcons and Seahawks games, how does getting a guy like Quentin Lake back?
I think it's big, Nate, you know, just because he's so versatile and he's so physical. He's really just so productive in general, but his communication, his command, similar to some of the things we've talked about with Landman or Kobe Turner, there's a reason why he's been voted a captain for our group. But he just got this presence where you just feel better. You know, you look at guys like him and Devontae, getting them back, you just feel better about your team when you add two players of that caliber. But specifically as it relates to the defense, he's so versatile. He does so many things for us. And I thought that was a real edge he provided for us in terms of some of the production, particularly setting edges, doing some of the things that we ask of the star. And when we're in our base defense, he's very active as a fit safety in the run defense. And so it's going to be big because these guys do a great job with that.
Guys have talked this week about how, like, the closeness of the last two playoff losses taught them about how every little play matters.
Yeah.
How much do you lean into that experience as you start another playoff run?
I think you lean into it. I think the best thing is these guys have had experience. You know, we might be a young team or have a lot of younger guys, but they've accumulated a lot of experience. You know, you're talking about these guys that are in their third year. This will be their fourth playoff game, and that's really valuable and beneficial. What I don't want to have is guys reach and press, you know. And in every single game, we talk about it all the time, Adam. It offers an opportunity to maintain momentum or snatch it right back. And so how can you be present? How can you do the next right thing, whether the previous play was, you know, what we wanted or whether it wasn't? Let's learn from it. Let's move on. Let's be present, and let's, you know, continue to do the things that we're capable of. But these guys have used, and I think we've used the season as a learning op. You know, I've talked to you guys about some of the scars. I mean, I think that we've been callous from the 17 games that we've had to understand what does it look like when we're at our best? How do we try to be able to mimic and emulate that when we get these precious opportunities, knowing that the enemy does have a say? And this week will offer an opportunity for us to go swing.
As an offense, you guys have had a lot of success receiving touchdowns 3 yards and closer to the goal. What's the art of being able to score and get in the end zone that close to the goal line?
Well, I think in a lot of instances, you know, I think we could talk about specific plays. You know, a lot of those have come from an excellent rapport and a guy that is, you know, when you get down in those tight red areas and you're in some of the heavier groupings like we've talked about, in a lot of instances, that can elicit some one-on-one matchups. And you've got a guy that can put the ball where he wants, and then you have a guy in Devontae that is, you know, very automatic. And he's got amazing separation ability, you know, particularly right away when there's less vertical grass. And so the margin for error is that much smaller. And so he can play above the rim. He can do a lot of different things, and they've had a lot of production. Then it was cool to see Matthew and Puka end up connecting on that. But, it's about being able to punch it in, whether we're throwing it, whether we're running it. And the good offenses that we've been a part of can do either or. But those guys have done an excellent job of helping increase, our point total and our overall red zone efficiency. And that's probably the majority of a lot of those 3-and-ins. But, there's been a handful of instances, when you throw for as many touchdowns as Matthew did, you give the players deserve a ton of credit, and, grateful for those guys executing the way they are.
Devontae was saying as he and Matthew worked through the red zone struggles early in the season, he was maybe more frustrated that he at least led on to us. He said it wasn't just him and Matthew, it was the three of you kind of working together.
Yeah.
Can you just describe what that process was like and what you learned about?
I think just day in and day out, you just go to work. I think there was a real breakthrough. I think in some instances when you got two special players that didn't get a whole lot of work together, they got some off-season stuff, but then any of the preseason training camp, that was very minimal just because of the circumstances Matthew was working through. And so the comfort, the rapport, being able to get an indicator on, Tay's body language, how do they want things as they're developing a relationship. And I thought the Baltimore week was a real breakthrough. Obviously, the 3 touchdowns against Jacksonville is what everybody saw, but time spent, I think, is a really important thing, and it can kind of be organic. What I don't think you want to do is you want to press. Sometimes you can want something so bad that you can reach and press, and then you're getting away from the things that have allowed you to have successful outcomes in previous stops. And they just kept going to work, and I think, just like anything else, relationships and rapport take time, and you start to see, a lot of the fruits of a lot of the work that's gone on behind the scenes that we saw in practice settings, and then it started to come into life, particularly from that Jacksonville game on.
So there's Sean McVay, and yes, Kevin Dotson, my favorite player on the Rams, that's not named Puka Nacua, Matthew Stafford, because of what he brings to the offensive line, because of what he means to that run game. He is the attitude. He is a part of the culture of the going duo and that big physical road grade style of running. So when I first saw that Kevin Dotson was out, I thought, but then I realized that the beauty of this is that the Rams are telling us that they can win without Kevin Dotson. Look, if tomorrow was the Super Bowl, Kevin Dotson would be playing. If tomorrow was the division round against, whether it be the Eagles, the 49ers, whoever, he'd be playing. They know that they can beat the Panthers without him, and that they're going to need a close to 100% Kevin Dotson to beat the next team that they're going to have to beat to advance the NFC Championship game. BC says, I like how he calls opponents the enemy. Yeah. The key and critical, the enemy has a say. This is a Rams team, needs to go out. They need to execute. Yeah, he's a mile a minute with the words, man. I love Sean McVay. But let's get to some of these key matchups, and I give you the keys to the game. Now, I've already thrown out my prediction. I've got the Rams winning 29-16 in this one. Yes, you're going to cover. Yes, you're going to have a double-digit victory, but there's still important parts of this game that the Rams need to emphasize. And I think one of the big things that concerned Rams fans are going to have, and if I'm kind of ranking my concern level for this team, it is the secondary. And as far as the number one matchup I'm looking for on defense, that is Emmanuel Forbes Jr. versus the Panthers wide receivers. The first time they met up, they downright picked on him. Two of the biggest plays for the Panthers, and the biggest reason why they won that game were because Stafford had 2 interceptions. One was in the red zone on a tip ball. One was a pick 6. And then with the chance to tie the game with a field goal late, he fumbled. And then Bryce Young, because of the fact the Rams weren't getting very much pressure, because of the fact that they couldn't stop the run, so you saw cornerbacks and linebackers kind of creep up, look at that backfield. Bryce Young was able to hit some deep shots. He was 2 for 2 on those 4th down touchdowns. He was actually 3 for 3 on 4th downs for the entire day, and he was efficient on 4th down and 3rd down. He was 8 for 10 on 3rd and 4th down combined for almost 170 yards. Think about how wild this is. They were over 3 in the red zone, were able to put up touchdowns, and they were able to do that because those 2 4th down touchdown passes. He hit Jalen Coker on that go route, and then he hit Ted McMillan on that crosser for the game winner. And both those were on 4th downs, and both of those where on plays where Forbes has had his issues with bigger, more physical wide receivers. Ted McMillan, 6'4.5", 6'5". Coker, 6'3", 220. Big, physical. He has to play better on the outside than he did in week 13. He gave 5 catches for 110 yards and 2 touchdowns on 5 targets. And the Panthers, they're not going to be a pass-heavy team, but when they do drop back, when they do put it in the air, they're going to McMillan or they're going to Coker. Those are going to be Bryce Young's top 2 targets, and Forbes is going to be in coverage all day. So that's going to be the big matchup on defense in the secondary. Forbes, first-round pick, the Commanders essentially gave him away. This is his opportunity to make the Rams look smart. This is an opportunity for Les Snead to get another feather in his cap and say, we found a dude that no one wanted, and we made him our CB1, our CB2. So it's going to be a big afternoon for Emmanuel Forbes. Next big matchup, Poona Ford, defensive tackle, going up against center Cade Mays. Now, in their first matchup on week 13, he was not 100% healthy. In their first meeting, he played just 19 snaps. He's the Rams' best run defender. And in that week 13 loss, outside of the turnovers from the Rams, which were mainly due to Matthew Stafford and a couple lucky tip passes, well, the reason why they lost that game was the Panthers were running that football. 164 yards on 40 attempts. 40 attempts, 35 by the running backs, 93 yards inside the tackles. So you're going to see Dowdle, you're going to see Hubbard. They're going to try to not just gash you with explosive runs like it's a Saquon Barkley. They're going to try to get 6 and 7 yard chunks. And what that does is it puts the Panthers in second and third and manageable, and it keeps that Rams offense off the field. The Rams' number one priority on Saturday is not pressuring Bryce Young, which is important. It's stopping the run, because that is where the game plan is for the Panthers. The game could be won for them if they're able to run that football. Everything changes. If Carolina can run the ball down the Rams' throat on Saturday, that would be the first step to pulling off an improbable upset. And you just need to have a better game from that front seven for the Rams. You need Poona Ford to be at 100%. I'm looking for them to neutralize that run. Next matchup, let's go to the other side of football. Right guard Justin Dedich versus defensive tackle Derek Brown. Now, Justin Dedich, he's in for K-Dot. Dotson's been ruled out. So Dedich, who is not good in pass pro, he's below average. You can call him bad if you want. As a run blocker, he's not the worst. But the Panthers pass rush, they're not one of the best in the league, to say the least. But Brown, he is a game changer. On the interior, he's effective. And he's the one who forced that fumble on Matthew Stafford late in the fourth quarter in that last game. And Brown has been balling last 2 weeks, 4 and 5 pressures in his last 2 games. So the Rams, they need to do a much better job blocking him, accounting for him, keeping Matthew Stafford vertical, because interior pressure is one way to get Matthew Stafford, to get Stafford out of his game. Is if you can get interior pressure on Matthew Stafford, he's not this mobile quarterback that can break a tackle, hit on the outside, extend the play, go out of structure, find Devontae Adams with Puka on crossers. Yes, once in a blue moon, he can make something happen out of desperation, but he's not someone that's going to extend plays out of the pocket if you're getting a consistent interior pressure. So I'm looking at Steve Avila. I'm looking at the interior of this Rams offensive line to really step up. And Justin Dedich is a big wild card, a major X factor in this game, because he has been a dumpster fire at times. He has been just downright bad. So they need Dedich to step up. Next one, linebacker Nate Landman versus the Panthers running backs. The Panthers will commit to the run like we talked about. Rico Dowdle, Chuba Hubbard, 35 carries total. And Landman, he has not been the same guy in the last couple of weeks. He's struggled. The tackling hasn't been great. You're going to get the return of Quentin Lake, which should have a positive impact on him. But if Landman is missing tackles and he's not containing his gaps and he's in and out of his gaps. He's letting them slip through. The Panthers are going to go 4, 5, 6 yards, and that's going to do what we talked about. Put them in a position where they could pull off the upset. Hey, Nate Landman, they paid you, but did they pay you too early? If you have a bad game and they lose, and that's the reason why, I'm going to say yes to that. So go out there and earn your paper on Saturday. Next matchup, wide receiver Puka Nacua versus cornerback Chow Smith-Wade. So the Panthers, they actually did a really good job against Puka Nacua in week 13. Watched that all 22 once again earlier in the week. And what really stood out was you look at the stats, 6 catches, 72 yards on 9 targets. It's a solid game for some receivers. Now Puka Nacua. And that was in a game where they didn't have J.C. Horn. And Horn is going to go against Puka Nacua on Saturday. But Smith-Wade, he's their slot defender. And with Davante Adams back, you're going to see Puka Nacua in that slot. And Puka Nacua is going to have opportunities. So now's the time for Puka, who was the PFF Player of the Year. Puka Nacua, I'm just going to say this. I take Puka Nacua over Jackson Smith and Jigba this year. And the physicality, is he the best route runner? Is he best against man? No. But against zone coverage, still really good against man, still great against man, but Jackson Smith and Jigba might have the edge against man, but still, I would give the edge overall as a receiver to Puka Nacua. Puka Nacua was predicted to win NFL Super Bowl MVP. I still think it's going to be Matthew Stafford in my fairy tale ending, but to have Puka Nacua after playing without Davante Adams, the return of Davante Adams is just going to make life a lot easier for him. And you can't bracket coverage him as much. Davante is going to keep defenses a little more honest there. And I think that Puka almost, I don't want to say feels guilty for everything that happened, the Aiden Ross curse and all that nonsense. He went out to have an incredible game on against the Seahawks on Thursday, but he's the PFF Offensive Player of the Year. He had a 96.3 PFF grade. That's a PFF record. 3.71 yards per route run. That's third in PFF history. 27 contested catches. That's a PFF record. It's time for Puka to elevate. I always talk about that on my shows. When do you have an opportunity to elevate? You elevate when you go from a role player to a star, from a Pro Bowler to an All-Pro, from someone that's good in the regular season to one that's great in the postseason. And Puka's had some really good games in the postseason, but this is the postseason. These are the playoffs where Puka can go get that $35 million per year, $40 million per year contract, right? If he wants to really, really establish himself as one of the very best players in the game, he helps carry along with Matthew Stafford this team to a Super Bowl. And that's where I go to the keys to the game. So we talked about that first big key, and some of these are going to kind of go back to the matchups, but the first big key, and I can't overemphasize it, is you got to come out on top on the run game. We talked about the 35 carries from Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard, and the fact that even though they didn't have the explosives, it allowed them to control the game. The second half of that game, the Panthers had the ball for 19 minutes and 35 seconds. They dominated time of possession. And a big difference in that game is Poona Ford wasn't fully healthy, played just 19 snaps, and Quentin Lake is going to be returning too. So with Ford on the field, the Rams allowed 15 carries for 48 yards. So with Ford off the field, the Panthers had 20 carries for 93 yards. So they're going to do a much better job stopping the run. And in that game, the Rams didn't run the ball bad. It was a 0.43 EPA per rush. But I think you can run the ball a little better and run the ball more. I mean, they were running the ball at a clip over 5 yards per carry, but ran the ball just 15 times. So 15 times to the Panthers 35 in a game where Matthew Stafford was struggling. I want to see them run the football with a little more regularity. Next thing I want to talk about is Bryce Young. The next big key, number 2 biggest key, Don't let this be the Bryce Young game. Don't let this be the game where the Panthers start to change their tune on Bryce Young. Bryce Young has been one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL against the blitz. The Rams blitz at over 17% of the time. It's the second lowest in the NFL. I want to see Chris Shula, if the Panthers are having some momentum, break from what he typically does, and that is just stay in zone, stay in this bend but don't break style of defense, stay with DBs 8 to 10 feet off the line of scrimmage, and just give these cushions. No, impose your will on Bryce Young, because not only is he one of kind of the most mistake-prone, one of the biggest mistake-prone quarterbacks in the NFL when it comes to the blitz, but also he's someone that if he puts the ball in the air when he's pressured, something good can happen for your defense. 6 turnover-worthy plays for Bryce Young when he was blitzed this season. That was 11th most at the quarterback spot. He was a 63 grade quarterback when he was blitzed, and 9 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. So I don't want to see the Rams just kind of go to their norms there. I want to see them switch things up. I want to see them kind of impose their will and give them a different look. Okay, play a clean game, no turnovers, take out the crowd early. The Rams should win this game. And I think you limit those explosives. You play turnover-free football, and you're going to advance. I will say, though, I'm looking at those explosives. The screen pass on 3rd and 8 that led to a 35-yard touchdown, that first score on the offense. Bryce Young hit Jalen Coker for 33 yards on a 4th and 3. Ted McMillan on a 4th and 2 for a 43-yard score. And I just want to say this about this Rams team. If you lose this game, it's really time to think long and hard about the future of this franchise because of what this team has been able to do this year and where this team should be. I don't think they're going to lose. I think it's 29-16. And my Super Bowl pick, I've got the Rams beating the Buffalo Bills 34-27. 34-27. That's a high scoring game at Levi's. It might be a little less score. I'm going to go 34-27. 34-27. I want to see a close game. And yes, the Texans are a team that I think is a logical pick. They've won 9 straight. If CJ Stroud limits turnovers, they have a pretty good chance. The Patriots with Drake May and Mike Vrabel still need to see them prove it in the playoffs. Bo Nix has a great coach, and Sean Payton still need to see them prove it in the playoffs. I think that even though the Buffalo Bills are a very flawed team, if it's not now, then when is it going to be for Josh Allen? If it's not now, then when is it going to be for Josh Allen? Because you are not having to go against Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow or Pat Mahomes. It's the last year in that stadium. It's got to be this year. No one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. All right, let's switch gears, talk some Lakers versus Bucks, and drop your Super Bowl picks down below. I've got Matthew Stafford as my Super Bowl MVP. That's regular season MVP. That's Super Bowl MVP. And if that happens, I think if you're Matthew Stafford, do you really want to come back after that? It's the perfect way to go out. Obviously, that's kind of the dream scenario. But if you were able to pull that off, that'd be all time. That'd be all time stuff. There have been 7 players in NFL history that have won the regular season MVP and the Super Bowl MVP. Bart Starr did it. Terry Bradshaw did it. Joe Montana did it. Emmitt Smith did it. Steve Young did it. Kurt Warner did it. And Patrick Mahomes did it as recently as 2022. Stafford will be the 8th to do it. All right, we got Craig. If Stafford wins Super Bowl, he'll retire like Kershaw. And, you know, I did you guys know that Kershaw and Matthew Stafford went to the same high school? Very little known fun fact there. D-Mac with the sounds today. You know what it is. Craig, this year, run more in the red zone. BC, Stafford, or Puka is a good choice. That's the obvious choice. You never know. All right, switching gears. Lakers versus Bucks tonight. We'll take a look at that really quickly here. The Lakers taking on the Bucks. And the good news is you're back at home. Rui's out. LeBron looks like there's a pretty decent chance that he's going to play. Milwaukee, they're the 11th seed. They're coming off a pretty tough loss against the Golden State Warriors. They're 7-12 in road games this year. They have not won 3 games in a row all year. They're mid in Milwaukee as it gets. And the Lakers, they should be able to handle Milwaukee's offense. The Lakers defense has been up and down all season. They're really good in the final 5-6 minutes in the fourth quarter. They struggled throughout most of the game. Their defense is 21st in the league. And you look at this Bucks offense, they're averaging just 113.3 points per game. The Bucks also bad rebounding team. They don't really score in the paint. They're dead last in the association in touches in the paint. Milwaukee is a good 3-point shooting team, though. Giannis averaging 29.5 points per game, 10 boards, 5.5 assists. Time for the Lakers to get a big win tonight. Austin Reeves still out. Thero still out. But the Lakers news that's actually really interesting that could impact them in the trade deadline is the Pelicans have reportedly informed teams that Zion, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, Queen, and Fears will not be moved before the deadline. Now, you can look at that a couple different ways. And the first way is to say it's a leverage play, right? It's, we're not moving them, but if you call us with a big offer, maybe they're saying this. What they're really, let me try to translate. What they mean is we're not moving those guys, and Herb Jones and Trey Murphy, unless maybe there's 2 first-round picks as a possibility. You're going to want to tell the players you're committed to them, right? The Pelicans now like, oh, wow, they're committed. That's always important, especially when you don't own your own pick. So they need as many wins as possible. So it kind of tells me if you actually want one of them and you're trading them, of course, if you give enough, of course, you make them an offer they can't refuse, then maybe, look, you could start to have the conversation, but it's pretty interesting. I mean, look what the Lakers do with Anthony Davis, right? They kind of gave him a vote of confidence, and then they talked about building around him, and then at the same time, they were negotiating with Nico Harrison about a Luka deal, right? The NBA, there's a lot of snakes, a lot of slime balls, and that's just how it happens. That's what business is like. So, I mean, I think that it was always kind of it was going to be kind of a long shot just because how valuable Trey and Herb are to the modern NBA teams. There's just so much demand for that type of player. They're both on team-friendly contracts. They're still young. And guess what? They'd be a fit on every single roster in the NBA. Why wouldn't a team want a guy like that or both those guys? So, this is a Laker team that, whatever. I mean, you got no pick if you're the Pelicans and things like that. You want to keep being a lottery team, then so be it. So, a franchise that clearly they just don't have, they don't know what they're doing. And here's my take on the Pelicans. The Pelicans should be the Seattle Supersonics. Okay. Like, let's just call that what it is. I want to see the Pels in Seattle. That is a franchise that has not done much there, but we'll see what the Lakers end up doing, and we'll see how they look as they continue to get healthy. I think the Lakers get a big win tonight against the Bucks at home. I like this kind of refreshed version of JJ Redick that we're seeing. A guy that has kind of admitted that 2-week stretch where he was calling out his team, that maybe that wasn't him. He kind of blamed on the holidays and things like that. He gave his team a lot of love after that loss to the Spurs, and I think that you're trying to see more cohesion within that group right now. But the other team in Los Angeles, the Chargers. How about the Chargers? A Chargers topic here on the LA Sports Report. The Chargers, well, they have got a big test in front of them. And they've been decimated by injuries. Their offensive line has lost a lot of key members along the year, but it is a pretty good trench matchup. And I look at not how the Chargers can lose. I'm going to tell you how the Chargers can win. I'm going to spin a positive here, and I don't want to see you in the comments. D-back, they're the San Diego Chargers. Go back to San Diego. Come on. The Chargers are great tenants to the Rams, okay? They pay rent on time, all right? So the path to a victory for the Chargers is, one, they've got an offense. You got Ladd McConkey, you got Keenan Allen, you got Quinn Johnson, you got Amarion Hampton, you got Justin Herbert, right? I mean, there are weapons, and you have a number of options that you could turn to move those chains, to put some pressure on New England. And Christian Gonzalez on the other side, he's probably going to take away your number one receiver, but Justin Herbert has been really good this season at spreading the ball around. You got Gadsden the second. You've got Vidal. I mean, there's a lot of weapons they have where they can spread the ball around. And I think that's something that works in Justin Herbert's favor, where Gonzalez is going to try to shut down their number one. And he's going to try to take away that part of the field. But this is why it's such a big Justin Herbert game. Spread the wealth if you're Justin Herbert. Also, you look at New England. They're 6th in total rushing defense this season. They've given up 101.7 yards per game, but they're going to be without Robert Spillane on this one. And anytime you got injuries to some of your best players, it's a way for this Chargers offense to get the ball out, establish a run game, try to surprise them with something early to put pressure on that defense. And then here's the other thing too. Drake May has to prove it. Is Drake May a year early on everything? A year early for the MVP, a year early for playoff success, a year early to assume that role as the guy. And I think the talent's certainly there. We're going to be hearing about Drake May for a long time. And look, Caleb Williams has certainly developed into a quarterback that has shown those flashes of being a number one pick. But maybe it's not me being a USC hater, because you guys know I'm that. Some of my best friends are Trojans, a number Bruin. But I did say that Drake May was going to be a better quarterback than Caleb Williams. And right now, at least I look pretty right about that. But I still think that Caleb Williams' upside is still tantalizing. And we could look back 15, 20 years from now and say, wow, Caleb Williams really, really did it, right? I mean, he's still at least in the mix to have a better career than Drake May. Drake May's in a great situation, as is Caleb Williams, playing with Ben Johnson in Chicago. But Drake May has to prove it. And the Patriots might be a year ahead of schedule. And maybe now is not the time for a run. I mean, their wide receivers are below average. Stephon Diggs is out here doing who knows what. Allegedly. And you just don't see that premium household top level talent for the New England Patriots as a skilled position. And that's when things start to play up in the postseason, is when you have your best players at premium positions. So that's my question. I could be wrong, but maybe it's a year too early for Drake May. And on the flip side, Justin Herbert is starving for a playoff win. We saw what happened a couple years ago, that choke job against the Jacksonville Jaguars. You can't have that. You need to have a better showing this time around. The other thing too, the pass rush getting to Drake May, it's been hot. The Chargers, they ended the season tied for 10th in total sacks, had 45 sacks. You got a lot of pressure up front. Khalil Mack had 5.5 sacks. You got there's tons of talent that is peaking at the right time. The Patriots, they've allowed 47 sacks. That's the 4th most in the league. They are getting healthier on that offensive line. Will Campbell is coming back last week, and Jared Wilson, he's making it through concussion protocol. But that's where the Rams can really, really punch them in the mouth early potentially. So it is a really decent matchup in the trenches. On the other side, we know the Chargers' issues, right? The Chargers have given up 54 sacks. That's the 3rd most in the NFL. And part of that has to do with the fact that Justin Herbert, who played for Oregon, well, the Chargers offensive line has had more combinations than Oregon has had uniform combinations this year. 32 offensive line combinations for the Chargers this season. And New England, they're 20th in pass rush win rate, 25th in pressure percentage. So that's not a dominant pass rush. So there are certain, I wouldn't call it an advantage for the Chargers, but there are certain matchups that you could say, wow, we can make up for our deficiencies because that is not one of their strengths, right? It's not a strength versus a strength. It's like a weakness versus a kind of weakness, right? I mean, there is ways for them to manipulate it. So, you know what? This is the LA Sports Report. And I know I get a lot of love for that intro. People DM me, people in the Dodgers chat. They love the intro, right? I don't know if I told you this, Robert, but we had a comment of someone that says when we start the show, they rewind it on the scrub to rewatch the intro twice before the show starts.
Oh, man.
That's love.
That's real love. It's LA.
That's LA. And what do we say in the intro? Justin Herbert is a top 5 quarterback, right? And if
USC's better. Oh, my bad.
No, there you go. College football is better when USC is good. Okay. A wise man once said. And what I'm getting at is if Justin Herbert is a top 5 quarterback, even though the Patriots have had a better regular season, should win this game, have home field advantage, let's not forget that Jim Harbaugh is Jim Harbaugh. And Jim Harbaugh is a winner. And I got the Chargers pulling off the upset in New England. Justin Herbert leading the Chargers to a playoff win for all the reasons that I stated. Call me crazy. I'm feeling that, though. All right, we got Craig. Chargers usually choke. Hope they beat Beantown. Yeah, anytime LA beats Boston, anything, it's a great day. All right, before we wrap things up, I got my top 5 most random Rams. We're going to run through this very quickly here. We'll do some honorable mentions. Clay Matthews, random Ram. Packers, USC. Carson Wentz, I think you could say, is a pretty random Ram at this point. Played there for 1 season. Of course, had all that success at times with the Eagles and then didn't really live up to the hype. Of course, Nick Foles ends up winning a Super Bowl. Shout out to Nick Foles, who's also on this list. Nick Foles is a random Ram. He is an honorable mention on this one. But then I think you look at the top 5. Jerome Bettis still feels like a random Ram to me. Jerome Bettis, the bus, would go on to establish himself as one of the best running backs in the National Football League. He played 2 years for the Rams, both Pro Bowl seasons, and then he ends up with actually 3 years with the Rams, 2 Pro Bowl seasons, goes to St. Louis, was in a couple years with LA, goes to St. Louis, and then he ends up having a Hall of Fame career with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So the bust Jerome Bettis at number 5 for the most random Rams of all time. Then number 4, you've got to go Wes Welker. How many of you knew that Wes Welker was ever even a Ram? Yes, Wes Welker was a member of the Los Angeles Rams. Wes Welker, who made his bones playing for the New England Patriots, was a part of that Patriots run, but he finished his career with the Rams, played 1 season in St. Louis in 2015. He ended up with 102 yards receiving, made just 13 grabs. And then coming in next, we got Joe Namath. Joe Namath, famously Broadway Joe, Super Bowl III, saying that his underdog Jets were going to beat Johnny Unitas's Baltimore Colts, one of the big watershed moments for the National Football League. Well, he ended up finishing his career with the Rams. He played 12 years with the Jets and 1 year with the Rams, played 4 games, made 2 starts, was 54-107 for 606 yards. So Joe Namath, Alabama, New York Jets, Hall of Fame career, 4 games with the Rams. And then my top 2 most random Rams of all time. This will blow your mind a little bit. Coming in at number 2. You ready for this one? Terry Crews. Yes, Terry Crews from The Office, from The Longest Yard, the actor from White Chicks, my favorite movies of all time. Terry Crews ended up playing 2 games. He was drafted by the Rams in 1991. He was 11th round pick by the Los Angeles Rams. He ended up playing in 6 games. Terry Crews was a Los Angeles Ram. Believe it or not, Terry Crews, before becoming a Hollywood star, was a football player for the Los Angeles Rams. And number 1 on my list for the most random Rams of all time. Number 1. You ready for this one? Shook Knight. Yes, Shook Knight. Before he started murdering people, maybe he was doing this while he was, and of course, I'm just only getting there. But
Nah, he did murder people. We keep it real.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. Allegedly, don't come after us, please. But Shook Knight, in 1987, during the players' strike, he was a replacement player. He played in 2 games, a total of 8 snaps, and wait for his line. No tackles, no sacks for Shook Knight.
That's kind of weak, D-Mac.
I mean, you know, he still put on the uniform, right? He still put on the uniform, and he was, I believe he was a player at UNLV at one point. Shook Knight, man, the mastermind behind the greatest record label of all time, Death Row Records. Chucko bars,
Decent bars.
man, ain't nothing but a gangster party. Picture perfect. I painted a perfect picture while my hoochie's in precision. My intention to get richer with an S and double OP. What? Okay. And folks, we are out of time today here on the LA Sports Report. Appreciate you guys rocking with us. As always, we're going to join you tomorrow. Join us for the first Rams post-game show after the game. Rams, Panthers, we're going live for the post-game. Should be a good one. And also, we'll be back for you guys Monday. So Monday through Friday here on the LA Sports Report here. Special thanks to Rob. Actually, before we get out of here, Rob, let me get your Super Bowl. Actually, Nelson, what's your Super Bowl prediction?
Come to my.
I'm back to you. Don't worry. Oh yeah, let's go. We need Nelson's. Here we go. Nelson's Super Bowl prediction.
I'm gonna go with the Rams.
Rams Texans. So you're loving the defense. I love it. I mean, I think honestly, it's kind of like the softest part of me. And this is my softest sports take. You hear my softest sports take I have? It's that I secretly root for any team that's never been to their league's championship game to get there. You know what I mean? Because this is my theory, is when you get there, the impact that does to like that fan base, it's like it can extend. It's like you signed a contract extension to be your favorite team's fan for like another 40 years. It's like it becomes a party fair. Getting there is one thing. Winning the whole thing is like the next level, right? To win it all, I mean, I root for everyone to win a championship at least one time, except the San Diego Padres, except who else would we put on that list? I probably would say Oklahoma City Thunder. I was being a hater because of the Russ stuff. The Clippers, maybe. No, the Clippers, they're going to get the title one day, right? Right. All right, Rob, you got your Super Bowl prediction?
Yeah, I
know you're a Steelers guy, right?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I'm gonna go with Rams Patriots. Actually,
Rams Patriots.
Yeah,
man. And who you got winning it all?
Got Rams, LA baby,
LA all day. There we go. Yeah, I love that. So you got Rams Patriots. So you got So you got if it's LA all day, you just let me. You're trying to so basically you're saying that the Chargers are in LA, which I think a lot of fans would agree with you on or disagree, but that means you got the Patriots beating them, right? But yeah. I love that though. Hey man, have your takes, baby. But if the Rams do lose this week, you know what I'm going to say, right? But that's going to do it, guys, for this episode of the LA Sports Report. Special thanks to my man, Big Dog Rob, our super producer, rock with us. Nelson, rock with us. We got Noel in the back today doing some training, which is great. We'll check with him again on Monday. And yeah, just so you know, guys, Monday through Friday, the LA Sports Report, you're going to find it here, LA Sports Report over on YouTube. Find us over on the podcast. Join the movement. Have a great weekend. And remember that LA is the city of champions.